My wife Lyanna Korn and I got into a car accident on our way back to work. After New Year's, when I woke up, we had somehow gone back in time to when we first started dating in my previous life. We were married for 8 years. Things were okay, but she refused to have kids. It turned out she had been hung up on her childhood sweetheart the entire time. After going back in time, I decided we both deserve better. We deleted each other's numbers without saying a word. We stopped seeing each other, complete strangers. 8 years later, Lyanna had become a big shot. Investor. At our class reunion, she showed up with her childhood sweetheart, Serge Gibson, and made a big announcement. When she saw that I'd come alone, she couldn't resist taking a jab at me. Ryan Carter, I get it. I'm hot. You've loved me through 2 lifetimes and still can't move on. But you don't have to keep following me around like this. I ignored her and took my son's hand. Her face went pale, her eyes wide. You said you'd love only me forever. She shouted. How could you have a son with someone else? 8 years later, I ran into Lyanna Korn again at another reunion. I've been working all night and was exhausted. I didn't even bother to clean up, just went straight to the party. Lyanna and Serge stood in the center of the room, holding hands and soaking up the attention. Lyanna, you're amazing. You haven't even been overseas that long, and you're already a top investor. You're the pride of Apex City. No kidding. Rich people overseas line up just to have dinner with her. She's so booked she can't even say yes to half of them. She makes hundreds of thousands just for showing up. That's more than we make in years. Lyanna, I've got some money saved up. Another classmate called out. Can you help out an old friend? Let me make some money too. Someone else chimed in. Lyanna, you and Serge look so happy together. Are you two getting engaged? Her face flushed as she looked at Serge. Yeah, she said shyly. Our engagement is on February 25th. Everyone started congratulating them, but then another classmate laughed. Didn't you used to be crazy about Ryan? Didn't you dedicate your first dance to him back in school? The second she heard my name, Lyanna's smile vanished. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Serge just squeezed her hand. We're about to get engaged, he said smoothly. Obviously, she's moved on. High school crushes can't compete with growing up together. Everyone laughed and moved on, but I remember that first dance. Lyanna had practiced that routine for weeks just to tell me she liked me. In my past life, things between us had been passionate from the start. She used to look at me like I hung the moon. Ryan, look at me. Eyes don't lie. I really like you, she'd said once. I believed her. I gave her everything. But it turned out she'd been lying all along. When I arrived at the reunion, someone spotted me right away. Ryan, you finally made it. You're late, dude. This is a nice event. Why aren't you in a suit? Don't tell me you came straight from work. Where are you working now? They saw my cheap clothes and started making fun of me. Lyanna kept staring. I nodded politely, but she looked surprised. Unreadable. Oh, Ryan, after all these years, you're still the same loser, she said with a bitter smile. Serge gave me a cold glance and pulled her closer like marking his territory. Sure, his life's rough, but let's not talk about his failures. We're all classmates here. He looked me up and down. Seriously though, why show up to a class reunion like this? You're in your 30s. You should know better. Clothes make the man. What woman would want a guy who can't even take care of himself? I got an extra suit in my car. You can wear it so you don't look so pathetic. Everyone laughed. The contrast between us was obvious. He wore gold-rimmed glasses and a tailored suit. I had just finished an all-nighter at work, running on no sleep, wearing cheap clothes. Thanks, but no. Thanks, I said, and went to get some food. I was starving. Lyanna walked over and handed me a check for $20,000. This is just a little help for old Tom Sake, she said softly. You don't have to pay me back. Get some decent clothes. Find a steady job. Take better care of yourself. Ryan, let the past go. Don't get stuck there. You still there. What was she trying to say? In our past life, she had wanted to be a dancer, while I dreamed of being a lawyer. Both paths were expensive. I gave up my PhD, offered to work and support her. Whenever she failed an audition, I paid the bills and encouraged her. But one day she wanted another pair of expensive dance shoes. When I said we couldn't afford them, she threw all her old ones in the trash. Ryan, she cried, if I hadn't fallen for you, if I'd gone abroad with Serge, I wouldn't be stuck living like this. Marrying you was the biggest mistake of my life. Her words destroyed me. Still, I tried to save our marriage. I hugged her one night and whispered, Lyanna, Let's have a baby, okay? She shoved me away. Do you even have the money to raise a kid? You want them to suffer like us? I told you I hate kids. I'll never have a child with you. Not in this life. That was the moment my heart finally broke. On the first day back at work after New Year's, a runaway truck hit us and killed us both. But I wasn't scared, just strangely relieved. When we woke up in the past, we silently agreed to go our separate ways. There was nothing left between us. I pushed the check back to her. It's fine. I don't take charity from strangers. Lyanna frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Are you calling me a stranger? I nodded. What I wear is my business. My job is respectable. I don't need saving. If you want to help someone, find someone who actually needs it. Her hand trembled, but she didn't move. Serge hurried over, his expression dark. He forced a smile. If you don't want money, we can get you a real job, he said. I just invested in a barbershop. You can start as an apprentice. $20 an hour. Not much at first, but once you learn the trade, you'll have a skill for life. Maybe one day you can open your own shop. I kept eating. Thanks, but I like my job. Cool me. On, Ryan. Someone said, stop being stubborn. They're trying to help. Yeah, man. Look at yourself. Isn't that why you came here, to find something better? Serge chuckled. We're only doing this because we used to be friends. Don't say no just to save face. Honestly, I couldn't understand their obsession with helping. The truth was all of them combined probably didn't have as much money as I did, but I let it go. Thanks, I said calmly. But I'm fine. Serge's smile tightened. Lyanna's voice rose sharp and cold. Still the same hopeless guy. You can't even recognize a good opportunity when it hits you. No wonder you're broke, right? After she said that, the crowd turned mean. One woman must have weighed 300 pounds, grabbed a glass and laughed. Ryan, I'll give you $100 if you drink this. Come on, don't say no. Everyone laughed. Nobody stopped her. I frowned. This reunion was worse than I expected, but I stayed. I was waiting for someone. I was about to call security when Lyanna suddenly grabbed the woman's arm. Do you think this is a club? She snapped, her eyes sharp. If you want to act like that, do it somewhere else. He's not someone you can treat like trash. The woman backed off, glaring. Serge looked embarrassed. Lyanna, what are you doing? I'm just doing the right thing, she said coldly. Right thing? He hissed. If you're having another episode, maybe you should get your head checked. She ignored him. Moments later, people started whispering. I heard the president of Raising East Group and her son are upstairs. The richest woman in Apex City. She's only 30 and already has a 5-year-old son. No one even knows who her husband is. They say he's a top lawyer in the capital. Another added, even big corporations wait 3 years just to hire him. Just then a group of bodyguards entered surrounding a little boy. The room went silent. What a cute kid, someone said. He must be her. So, the same woman who mocked me sneered again. Ryan, if it weren't for Serge, you'd never see people like this. Maybe you should get on your knees and thank them. I ignored her. The boy looked around and spotted me. His eyes lit up. He ran straight toward me, smiling from ear to ear, and jumped into my arms. Daddy, he said brightly, what took you so long? The room stayed quiet long enough for the echo of the word daddy to settle over every chandelier and glass flute in the hall. Phone stopped recording mid-wipe. Lyanna stood fixed to the floor as if someone had nailed her to it. Serge froze with his hands still hovering stupidly in the air where he had tried to pinch my son's cheek. My son wrapped his arms around my neck and buried his face under my jaw. He was warm and slightly sweaty from excitement, the way he always was after running. I shifted him to my hip and patted his back. You got here fast. Buddy, I said. Traffic was terrible. Mom said to find you downstairs. He replied, as if that explained the bodyguards, the hushed gasps, and the sea of eyes. His whisper tickled my ear. She said 2 minutes, not 3. Right on. Cue. The elevator doors at the end of the hall opened. Security fanned out with drilled precision. The chatter started again, thin and breathless. There she is, the president of Raising East Group. She is even prettier in person. Look at her suit. That has to be custom. She walked in without rushing, and the crowd parted the way a shoreline yields to the tide. Ivory blouse, dark blazer, tailored pants, the kind of clean lines that announce control without noise. Her hair was swept back, her expression calm, her eyes already finding the small figure in my arms. Those eyes warmed at once. The corners softened, and something like relief slipped across her face. She looked at me next, and there was the flicker, the glint that only the two of us ever saw. Sorry I'm late, she said. Then to our son, who was wriggling to get down. Easy, Tiger. You forgot to count your breaths in the elevator again, did you? Not. He nodded contrite, then brightened. I counted the floors. Instead, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She stopped in front of us. The closest classmates had unconsciously formed a semicircle. All of them trying to appear casual and failing. The ones who had been laughing a minute earlier were now oddly busy with their phones. Lyanna drew in a short breath and let it out in a thin thread. I sat my son down, and he took 2 steps to his mother with a happy seriousness that was his specialty. She crouched, kissed his forehead, and then stood. Her hand brushed my sleeve. A small check-in motion. Not showy, not designed for the cameras that were no doubt already rolling, but real all the same. Rough night again, she said. Softly. I nodded. Pro bono intake ran late. She smiled, the smile that only I ever got, and turned to the people nearest us. Thank you for keeping my son entertained. He has good instincts. He always runs toward the people he trusts. The woman who had just tried to make me drink sank behind taller classmate. Serge adjusted his glasses and found a face that would hold still for him. Lyanna did not move. Her eyes skittered from my son to my wife and back to me as if she could force the scene to make sense by measuring it. Enough times. You are the president, she said at last, voice dry, of Raising East. My wife nodded. Isabella East. But friends call me Isa. Her eyes flicked to me. Most friends. Polite. Laughter fluttered and died. Someone whispered the name to someone else, and then to someone else again, like a rumor, rippling across a pond. The bartenders, who had previously been leaning on their elbows, straightened and began polishing the same glasses as if their lives depended on it. Serge recovered first. He stepped forward with theatrical humility. President East, it is an honor. If I had known you would grace our humble reunion, I would have prepared a proper welcome, he said. And somehow no one laughed. Isa smiled the way you smile at a polite mosquito. Thank you. We just came to pick up our son. He had a piano lesson upstairs and wanted to say hello to his father. You are friends with Mr. Carter then? Serge asked, careful, searching for ground that cannot be cut from beneath him. Isa glanced at me for the length of a heartbeat. We are married, she said, simply. Then she looked at our son, who had climbed back up my leg like a vine. We keep our lives quiet, because quiet is a choice we can afford. The silence that followed was complicated. It had apology in it from people who would never speak the word. It had envy and calculation, and the slow construction of revised memories. It had the sound of ego stitching themselves up from a wound. I looked at Lyanna for a second. I saw the girl who once stood at the back of a gymnasium, counting 8 beats under her breath before a first dance she had practiced in secret. The memory surprised me with how intact it was. It also surprised me with how little it hurt. Lyanna, I said, keeping my voice even. I will not keep you. Congratulations on your engagement. February 25th. Right. I wish you well. Her lips parted, but she could not find the sentence. Serge did it for her. Yes. We are very happy, he said. And we are thrilled for you both. He tightened his arm around Lyanna a little too tight. Of course, Ryan never mentioned he was married to the president. He never mentioned much of anything really. There was pressure in the air again, the dense kind that precedes a storm or a confession. Isa felt it because she always does. She lifted our son's chin with one finger. Why don't you show Mrs. Parker your new trick, she murmured. Which one? The one with the knight that jumps over the other pieces. Just trick, he brightened. Watch this. He hopped away to a low cocktail table where 2 bored teenagers had been pushing pawns half-heartedly. Their boredom evaporated. The circle of classmates bent subtly in his direction. In the spaces laughter left, Isa turned a fraction to me and lowered her voice. Outback exit in 3. I will stall them. I looked at Lyanna again. She had not moved. The checks she had been holding earlier were gone, but her hands still trembled as if she were carrying something heavy that no one else could see. Isa pivoted to the room and spoke up, projecting without effort. We should not monopolize your celebration. Class. Reunions belong to the class. But before we go, I want to say one thing about opportunity, since there was so much generous advice being handed around when I came in. The crowd pulled itself tighter, drawn by gravity. Opportunity, she continued, does not always wear a suit or drive a nice car. It does not always introduce itself with a title. Sometimes it is a person who stayed up all night to keep someone else from being evicted. Sometimes it is a father who leaves a meeting to make it to a piano lesson on time. Sometimes it is a man who does not sell out the values that let him sleep. If you see that kind of person, be kind to them. Their clothes will catch up. The people who had laughed before now applauded in self-defense. I felt heat rise in my neck. Issa hated speeches, but she would lift a truck if it was sitting on my chest. Our son galloped back triumphant. I beat them, he announced to no one in particular. Twice. Of course you did, Issa said. She squeezed my wrist. We really do have to go. Your 9 o'clock is already warming up the waiting room. 9 o'clock, I repeated in my head. Reorganized. Right, the clinic intake. The mother and the landlord. We said quick goodbyes with nods that looked like grace and were really haste. As we turned, the bold one surged closer to Issa with business cards already between their fingers. Security did their work without making it look like work. I held our son's small backpack, worn at the corners, and let him keep hold of my thumb as we threaded out to the service elevator. The doors closed on a murmur, like a lid sealing a pot. Issa leaned her head against the cool steel wall and released a breath she had been holding since the instant our son had yelled, "Daddy," across a room full of strangers. All right, she said. Scale of 1 to 10. How bad was it before we arrived? 3, I said. Maybe 4. I have had worse. Her mouth turned rueful. People love the story they tell themselves about you. When you don't read the lines they hand you, it offends their sense of casting. I smirked. You would know. You fire half the casting directors in every room you walk into. Only the ones who forget I pay their invoices. Our son tugged at my sleeve. Are you mad, Dad? No, Booty. I'm good. He squinted, knowing this was only partly true. Then he nodded once, satisfied with the ratio, and returned to counting the elevator lights. We crossed the underground garage. Issa took the wheel of the old sedan I still refused to replace. She drove like she negotiated. Smooth, decisive, always one lane ahead of trouble. Our son began an elaborate story in the back seat about a knight who learned to move like a bishop for one day and then forgot because rules keep the board safe. I stared out the window as the city unspooled, washed pale by winter light. It is a strange thing to feel your old life and your new one overlap like tracing paper. The lines do not match, but you can see how one became the other. In the first timeline, after the truck, there was nothing. In the second, there was a cold bench on. The first day of the semester I had almost given up. There was a letter I had not written yet to a professor who would later sponsor my research. There was a night I told myself I would not quit again, even if it took 10 years to climb back to the door I had walked away from. I took every clinic case the law school would let me touch. Tenants, workers, people no one listened to. Later, I clerked for a judge who read every footnote like it was a witness that might lie if you looked away. I learned to hear where the truth hid. I learned to write like a bridge that would hold weight. The day I met Issa had not been elegant. No gala, no slow motion. A competitor had tried to bury a set of fake invoices in a subsidiary that did not even have the right address on its letterhead. I wrote a memo that said so. Her general counsel sent back a one-line reply. Who wrote this? Put him in the room. They put me in the room. Issa asked questions that were not traps. She listened without performing listening. When I finished, she said, "Thank you." Then she asked me to explain it again the way I would to my grandmother. When I did, she grinned. Hire him, she told her team. Then to me, if you hate it here in 6 months, leave. I will write you a letter that will carry you anywhere. I do not hate it. I like the way she built things. I like the way she ended meetings on time. I like the way she sent the intern home at 9 o'clock and sent the vice president home at 9:10. We dated with the awkward efficiency of two people who had never learned to pretend. We married with a small ceremony that did not trend. We had a son who taught me how fast 5 years can run. Back in the present, Issa took the ramp toward the legal aid clinic, a brick building that had once been a printing shop and still smelled faintly of paper. She parked in the back where no one would see our son or make a story, where one was not needed. You sure you do not want me to run interference upstairs? She asked. I have 10 minutes before I need to get back. I shook my head. If they see you, the landlord will bolt. He has already read the headlines. Fair point. She brushed my cheek with the back of her fingers. I am proud of you. Of what? I have not done anything yet today. You refuse to become what people expect. That counts. I kissed her knuckles and climbed out. Our son unbuckled with the solemn efficiency of an astronaut. Isapulle. Away with a quick honk that sounded like a secret. Inside, the clinic smelled like strong coffee and hard decisions. The receptionist, who runs the place, with the calm of a ship captain, waved me toward the second conference room. They have been here since 8, she said. Mom and daughter, landlord is on his way. And already angry, I stepped in and found the mother sitting straight back, hands folded on a manila folder as if posture alone could hold her day. Together, the little girl clutched the plush dinosaur like a badge. I introduced myself and sat. I am Ryan Carter. Thank you for waiting. Tell me, what happened? The story unspooled mold. Behind the wallpaper, a breaker that tripped 3 times a week. Rent on time. Every month anyway. Then an unexplained notice to vacate because the building was going condo. Except it was not. Because the permits did not exist. Because the city records said so, and the city records are not in the habit of lying for landlords who cannot be bothered to learn the process. We will fix this. I said for today you will not be leaving. I will file for a stay by noon, and we will get an inspector to the unit by end of week. No one is throwing your daughter's books into the street. The door opened. The landlord came in with a swagger that had stiffened into a limp the minute he saw me. He recognized me. He did not like that he recognized me. He set his jaw as if it would help. I know who you are, he said. I know who your wife is too. You think I am scared to be sued by the richest woman in the city? I kept my voice easy. Sir, I do not need to be married to anyone to read the law. You serve an improper notice. That is all this is. Fix your wiring. Treat your tenants with a minimum respect the statute requires. Or do not. But if you do not, and you try to put this family on the sidewalk today, I will enjoy the part where you pay their fees. He blinked. Anger moved through him like a cloud shadow, brief and cooler than it wanted to be. He looked at the little girl and for a split second seemed to feel the room he was in. He huffed. Fine, 60 days. But I want access for repairs. You will get it, I said, in writing. We will propose ours. You will keep them. He nodded once and left before the sentence could turn into something worse for him. The mother let go of her folder and pressed her fingers to her eyes. The little girl, offer me the dinosaur for a second, as if that was what grown-ups got when they had done a good job, then yanked it back and smiled. Thank you, the mother said. I thought I was going to faint. Do not. Coffee is cheaper, I said. And the receptionist burst out laughing through the crack door because she always listens, even when she pretends not to. When they were gone, I sat for a minute with the echo of what almost happened to them. It is a strange privilege to be in the hallway where bad days fork and veer away. I had 2 more intakes before lunch, a wage theft claim, a domestic withholding a passport. The second one would turn into something bigger than the clinic could handle, which meant I would handle it. Anyway, by the time I looked up, my phone had 3 missed calls from a number I knew too well. Lyanna, I let it buzz one more time. Then I answered. Ryan, she said, no greeting, the word thin with clip control. We need to talk today. I checked the clock. I have a 3:30 hearing. After that, I can spare 20 minutes. Public place, the cafe across from the school. Fine. 4. She hung up. I leaned back and stared at the plastic grooves in the ceiling tile. There was a time when a call like that would have turned my stomach into a fist. Now it felt like a weather report. Ray, maybe bring an umbrella. Maybe not. The hearing ran long. A lawyer on the other side thought made an argument. The judge thought otherwise. When it was done, I jogged the 3 blocks to the cafe, wind cutting through my thin jacket, hands burning, lungs humming. Lyanna was already there, sitting up, straight, hands wrapped around a cup. She was not drinking. She wore power-like armor. It had always fit her. The ring on her finger was new. The way her mouth set against her teeth was not. You look tired, she said. I am. I work. She flinched at the word like it was a small stone she had not seen coming. She recovered quickly. You humiliated me today, she said in front of everyone. I met her stare. You brought a crowd to a life that does not want one. My son said, hello. That is not humiliation. That is a 5-year-old who loves his father. She breathed hard through her nose. Her eyes rimmed red and then cleared. You could have told me. You could have said you were married. You could have said you had a child. We are not friends, Lyanna. We chose that 8 years ago. We owed each other silence. We paid it. Her hands tightened around the cup. I waited. She was not here for nostalgia. She was here for the other reason people asked to talk in public. They are about to say a thing they do not trust themselves to say in private. Serge needs legal help, she said finally. The phrase hovered like cold breath. She pushed on. It is a small thing, a contract, a bridge loan that has a clause we do not like. I told him you would not take it, but he insisted we ask. I stared at her. Why? Me? You have an army of bankers. You have entire firms on retainer. Because the person on the other side is afraid of you, she said, and when she saw my face, she laughed once short and without joy. Not of you, Ryan. Of your reputation, of the way you find knots and pull them loose, and if they will not loosen, you cut them clean and leave no thread for anyone to tug later. He thinks if you're involved, they will behave. Who is the person on the other side? She hesitated. Then she said it. Camden Hold. I leaned back. The name tasted like old metal. Hold had built a fortune on dead and debris, climbing a staircase made of the places he left behind. He had a talent for smiling while your foundation cracked. He also had a long memory and a short list of people he did not forgive. I was on that list because of a factory town where he had tried to ship a plant to another state and strand 200 families, and I had made him pay them first. No, I said you did not even ask the terms. I do not need to. I do not work for Serge, and I do not fix scams dressed as loans. Her mouth flattened. It is not a scam. We are raising money for a wellness complex near the river. He showed me the renderings. It could change the neighborhood. I know the neighborhood. The people there have no interest in being changed by someone who does not live with them. What does the lease say? What does zoning say? What happens to the tenants in the strip behind the proposed site? When do they get moved? Where do they go? Who pays for that? She bristled. You sound like the comments under an article. This is opportunity. This is investment. The kind you claim to care about when it is on your side of the table. Investment does not have to extract to be real. I said, if it is as clean as you say, you do not need me. If it is not, I will not put my name on it. She looked past me, past the window, past the street where a boy in a bright jacket hopped cracks in the sidewalk like skipping stones. When she met my eyes again, the anger had cooled, and something older had surfaced. The look of a person counting out how many versions of a life she can still afford to live. You still think you are better than me, she said softly. No, I think I'm different from who we were. That is all. She stood as if standing could end the conversation. She gathered her coat, then stopped. One more thing, she said without turning. Back then, when I said I would never have a child with you, I thought I was protecting myself from a life I was afraid of. I thought I was choosing freedom. Maybe I was just choosing an empty room and calling it a penthouse. I did not answer. Some sentences do not need witnesses. She left without another word. I walked back to the clinic. Through the slow fall of a gray evening, my phone buzzed with a new text. A photo from Isa, our son sitting at the kitchen table, face lit by a desk lamp, tongue threaded between his teeth the way he does when he concentrates, building a castle from mismatched blocks. Under it, a single line. He asked if we could wait for you to knock before we start dinner. I stood on the corner and let a light turn from red to green to red again. Then I put my phone away and took the long way home because there are some thresholds you do not arrive and out of breath. We ate late. After I read bedtime while Isa answered emails in the doorway, our son fell asleep on the second story. A hand spread over the page as if to keep the night from wandering off. When I slid the book free, he murmured without waking, do not forget to knock next time. I will not, I whispered. Not again. Isa waited for me on the couch with tea that had gone cold. She watched my face as I told her about the cafe. She asked you to represent him. Isa said yes. And you said no. I did. Good. But that will not be the end of it. Holt will come at this from 3 angles while you sleep. No. She set the cup down and leaned back. The ceiling above us creaked as the heater came on. For a minute we just listened to the house talk to itself. Tomorrow, she said, I have a board vote at 9 o'clock and site walk at 11 o'clock. After that, I want to see the river parcel. If Serge and Lyanna are in bed with Holt, we should know where the seams are. You do not have to stick your neck into everything I drag home. I said it was weak, and we both knew it. She smiled. We made a promise that we would not be each other's projects. We did not promise to stay out of each other's wars. I laughed once. It felt like lightness after a long day of heavy. Then she grew serious again. There's one more thing I heard today that Holt's people have been taking meetings with a councilman who desperately wants to look like a Jobs guy before re-election. If he is foolish enough to carry their water, they will move faster than a normal process would allow. Watch for a surprise agenda item. Watch for a midnight committee vote. I nodded. I will call in a favor with the clerk. She tilted her head as if listening to something inside herself, then reached for my hand. Do you regret it? What? The way we vanished from your old life. The way we built this one in. The quiet. The question caught me off guard with how precisely it found a tender place. I thought about the reunion, the boy launching himself into my arms, the look on Lyanna's face when the arithmetic of her story no longer added up. I thought about the clinic, the little dinosaur offered for a heartbeat of gratitude, the landlord flinching when he saw the shape of the law. No, I said, and I meant it. The noise does not make us more real. The quiet does not make us less. She squeezed my fingers. Then let's keep it for as long as we can. We turned off the lights. In the dark, I could feel the house settle again, all its weight on our choices. At dawn, I woke to a message from a number that never used a text and now had learned. It was Surge. No greeting, a link, a news alert. City Council announces emergency session 2. Vote on riverfront redevelopment. Variances tonight at 11 p.m. I exhaled through my teeth. Issa had been right. They were moving in the dark. Another message appeared before I could type. If you insist on not helping, at least stay out of the way. Do not embarrass Lyanna. Again, I stared at the words until they stopped meaning anything and then started meaning exactly what they meant. I put the phone down and went to wake our son. He blinked up at me and smiled. The automatic smile that resets the day. Knock, he said. I rapped gently on the door frame. Who is it? Your dad. Cool me. In. I did. Issa met me in the kitchen, with a file already open and a map of the river pulled up on her tablet. She raised an eyebrow. Midnight vote, she said. 11, I said. Worse. She slid a cup toward me. I slid my phone toward her, with the text from Surge. She read it, and set the phone back down like it was something we had both already thrown away. We will go through the agenda line by line. We will prepare 3 statements, one for each way they try to sell it, and we will find every tenant whose life sits under their pretty drawings. If they want to move fast, we will make the room heavier. I nodded. Then I told her the part 1 had been pretending I would keep to myself. Lyanna said she felt humiliated. She said I should have told her that I had a family. Issa watched me for a long second. You owe her nothing, she said. But if you want to tell her this. We did not build our lives to spite anyone. We built them to live them. I took that sentence and folded it up and put it in the pocket behind my ribs where I keep things I'm not ready to spend and do not want to lose. By noon, we had a list of names and addresses, as the developer brochure did not bother to print. By 2, I had a draft petition for a temporary restraining order if they tried to bulldoze process. By 4, I had a call from the clerk who had once owed me a favor and now like pay me back. The item had been slipped onto the agenda through a procedural trick that can be legal if it is not abused. It was being abused. At 5, as the sky went from lead to something darker, my phone buzzed. Again. Lyanna, what now? I asked when I picked up already halfway into the next sentence in a motion that would need to be perfect by 9. You are going to the council meeting. She said it was not a question. Yes. Do not please. Ryan, if this vote fails tonight, Hull walks away, and he takes our money with him. Surge will be ruined. I will be the woman who bet her career on vapor. I know what you think of me, but do not do this. Not like this. Not public. I sat with the appeal, honest and naked in a way I had not heard from her in years. I thought of that first dance again. I thought of a younger man who had tried to be what a younger woman needed and learned too late that you cannot be the bridge and the traveler at once. Come to the meeting, I said. Sit in the second row. Listen to what they say about your project. If you can look those tenants in the face afterward and still want the vote to pass, then it will pass without your shame. If you cannot, then your shame will have done something useful. For once, she did not speak. Then she hung up. At 10:30, the council chamber was already full. Men in bright ties and women with clipboards, residents with folded arms, developers with careful smiles. I wore the same cheap jacket from the reunion. Let them learn slow. Issa took the seat beside me, her presence quiet and undeniable. Our son was at home with his piano teacher who moonlighted as a babysitter when we needed someone calm in the house. The clerk glanced at me and lifted a finger in a signal that said the surprise agenda item would not be surprised. Anymore, when a vote came up, the sponsor spoke first, a speech about jobs and vibrancy and the river as a new front porch. A consultant followed with slides that looked like postcards from a city where no one ever needed a second job. Then the microphone opened to the floor and the room changed temperature. A woman from a strip behind the site stepped up and spoke about her mother, who has a wheelchair that barely fits through their door. A man in work boots described the last time a developer promised a grocery store and delivered a luxury pizza. A teenager explained how long it takes to move a school bus stop. None of it was loud. It was solid. It sat in the room like facts. Then the sure call my name. I kept my statement short. The variance process has a purpose. You do not bend it at midnight because someone rich is impatient. You do not move families with a rendering. You do not sell the river twice. You enforce your own rules, or you admit there were never rules. I did not say Issa was in the room. I did not say Lyanna was either, though I felt her somewhere behind me, breathing too fast. When I finished, the sponsor tried to rush the vote. The clerk cleared her throat in the way that means you were about to be reminded of the book you forgot to read. The chair frowned. The procedural trick collapsed under the weight of the procedure it had ignored. The vote was postponed to a regular session with proper notice. The room exhaled. People clapped softly as if they were inside a church. Holt was not present. His people were. They made calls as if their thumbs could change time. I turned and found Lyanna in the second row staring at the floor. When she stood, her face was pale with the effort it takes to see yourself without flinching. She looked at me as if she wanted to say something, and then Issa as if she had already said too much. Thank you, she said to no one and to everyone, and then to me, for making me look. She swallowed and then added almost a whisper for not letting me be the person who does not see. She left before I could answer. Serge was not with her. He had not come outside. The winter air was sharp again. Issa slid her arm through Mine. That was only round one, she said. I know, but the ground is different now. Yes, I said it is. We walked to the car with the feeling you get when the story you thought you were in tilts and shows. You the real one. Behind us, the council building glowed like a lantern in a neighborhood that would not be moved by drawings alone. Ahead, our sons. That light would be on, a small moon, anchoring a small room. Between those points, there was a road I had chosen. Once and then chosen again, and for the first time all day, the quiet inside it felt unshakable. The next morning, the city was still half asleep under a layer of fog that made the skyline look like it had been drawn in pencil and left unfinished. I woke up before the alarm, the way I always did on days when I knew something was going to shift. Issa was already up, hair tied back, scrolling through her tablet. She looked calm, but I knew her calm was never the absence of tension. It was control under pressure, the kind that could melt glass if held too long. You didn't sleep much, I said, rubbing my eyes. Neither did you. She set the tablet down and gave me a look. The papers are spinning it already. Holt's PR people are pushing the anti-progress narrative. You're apparently a jealous ex-classmate trying to ruin Lyanna's project out of spite. I smiled, not surprised. They had to make it personal. It's cheaper than proving facts. Issa reached across the table and pushed her fingers on me. It won't stick. Not if we keep the focus where it belongs. Our son padded into the kitchen, hair sticking up like a crown of static. Are we still going to the park later? Yes, Issa said. But first, Daddy has to talk to some people who don't like rules. He frowned. That's silly. Rules are to keep people safe. Exactly. I smiled. You get it better than most adults. He grinned, satisfied with that answer, and ran off to his room to get dressed. By the time I reached the clinic, the phones were already ringing nonstop. Reporters wanted comments. Residents wanted reassurance. Developers wanted silence. I turned off my phone for an hour and just worked writing affidavit, drafting statements, doing the simple things that put chaos into order. At 10 o'clock, Issa called. You want to see this, she said. I walked to the break room, turned on the old television, and found the local news showing footage from the council meeting. They played the part where the tenant spoke, the part where I made the closing argument, and then they cut to an interview outside the chamber. Lyanna was standing there, microphones in her face. I wasn't aware of certain details, she said carefully. Now that I've reviewed the lease agreements, I see that there were discrepancies. I believe in progress that includes everyone. I'll be reviewing the partnership moving forward. The reporter Pressed. Does that mean you're backing out of the project? Lyanna hesitated, then said, it means I'm not signing anything until I understand what it costs. I stood there watching her image fade back into commercials and felt something quiet inside me shift. It wasn't triumph. It was closer to peace. The kind that comes when an old wound stops needing to be reopened. At noon, Issa texted, lunch? Our son wants pizza. So do I. We met at a small place near the river. Issa sat across from me, sunglasses on, pretending not to notice. The two journalists eating 3 tables away. Our son was busy stacking pepperoni into tiny towers. You think she'll really pull out of it? Issa asked softly. I think she'll try. Holt won't let her go easily. But she's not the same girl anymore. Maybe she'll surprise herself. Issa took a sip of water. And you? Do you feel done? I thought about that for a while. I don't think you ever get done with your past. You just stop letting it drive. That made her smile. The kind of small, genuine smile that didn't need to prove anything. That night, after we put our son to bed, Issa and I sat on the balcony with the city lights stretched below us. The fog had cleared, leaving a thin, cold wind. She rested her head on my shoulder. Do you ever think about what would have happened if we hadn't met? She asked. Sometimes I said, but then I remember the truck, the accident, the silence after. I think some things break so we can rebuild them, right? She nodded. You really believe we were given another chance? I don't know if it was given, I said. Maybe we just earned it the hard way. For a long moment, we didn't talk. The city hung below us, alive and indifferent. My phone buzzed. Again, one last message from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. The vote reversal made the news. Holt's pulling his money. Serge is furious. I'm leaving Apex for a while. I don't know where yet, but thank you for letting me see what I became. Take care of your family, Ryan. Lyanna. I read it twice, then showed Issa. She nodded once, slow and thoughtful. Closure, she said. Maybe, I replied. Or just another beginning we won't be part of. The next few weeks passed quietly. The council officially froze the riverfront project pending review. The tenants celebrated with a barbecue in the alley behind the clinic, and Issa attended without cameras, just another neighbor bringing dessert. Our son played chess with the kids from the strip mall, teaching them his jumping night trick. Life settled back into its rhythm. Early mornings, case files, piano lessons, bedtime stories. There were still storms on the horizon, but they didn't scare me anymore. We had built something stronger than noise. One evening as I tucked our son in, he blinked up at me and asked, Dad, why do you help people who are mean sometimes? Because if I don't, no one will, I said. He thought about that. So you fight monsters? Not monsters, I said. Just people who forgot they were supposed to be human. He smiled sleepily. That's harder. Yeah, I whispered. It is. Downstairs, Issa was on the couch with her laptop closed for once. She looked up as I sat beside her. Long day, she asked. Long year, I said. But worth it, she leaned against me. Then let's make the next one quieter. We stayed like that for a while. No need for words. Outside, the street lights flickered in the fog. Somewhere in the distance, a car horn echoed once, faint and fleeting, like a memory fading for good. I thought about all the lives that had crossed and separated, about the timelines we never saw and the ones we did. I thought about the man I used to be, desperate for validation, and the man I had become. Steady, content, no longer defined by loss. Issa reached for my hand and intertwined our fingers. You know, she said softly, if we hadn't gone back, maybe we'd never have found each other. Maybe, I said, or maybe we always would. Have one way or another. And for the first time in both of my lifetimes, I truly believed it. The night folded around us, gentle and whole. The world kept spinning, the past finally still.